Welcome to the BizVal podcast. At BizVal, we are passionate about empowering entrepreneurs the world over to understand and unlock the value in their business. We work with advisors and entrepreneurs to demystify the value creation process when building a business. At BizVal, we know how tough it is to grow and run a business, which is exactly why we've made valuations simple to understand, accurate, and affordable. Our unique blend of tech and touch ensures that you always receive the best service, authentic human engagement, and data-led insights to ensure that you build a business that provides you with freedom and choice. In the BizVal podcast, we showcase stories of real entrepreneurs and advisors, sharing lessons and inspiration from their journeys to make your journey just that little bit easier. Today on the podcast, we're going to be unpacking how to build an accounting practice that lets you spend more hours in the pool, on the bike, and pounding the pavement than updating ledgers. Gareth Price did it with Cloudworks, and now he's crossed the Atlantic to acquire a US firm for his next lap. So stay tuned. I'm Graham Stephen, the founder of BizVal, and I'm joined by
Carl McCulloch, and I'm based in Austin, Texas, and originally from Durban, South Africa. Our guest is Gareth Price. He's a CPA or a chartered accountant, depending where you are in the world, and the founder of Cloudworks Accounting Solutions. He's also finished multiple Ironmans and proves that endurance isn't just for race days. So welcome, Gareth.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So, Gareth, maybe a good place to start is around success in general. I think people often fail to define success and end up chasing the mirage and feeling like they never actually achieve it or get there. So as an athlete, I'm sure that you've become accustomed to defining success and what it looks like. And that differs for everybody. And even personally, it differs depending on the stage of life that you're in. So just curious, what does the success look like for you these days, both personally and professionally?
Sure. I mean, you guys have raised Ironman and triathlon and all those things. And I think when I started that, and probably when you start anything, there's a you want the thing. You want the sub 10-hour race. You want the sub 6-hour bike. You want the $1 million valuation. You want the Porsche or the Ferrari, or you want the thing. But when you get the thing, you often find that doesn't do it. So I know I spent the 6 months leading up to my last Ironman telling everybody, you are not your Ironman time. And I think you are not the car that you drive. You are not your bank balance. So I think possibly as I've got older, and now that I've turned 40, I can say things like that. I've really started to define success more by quality of life and more by impact. Are people better off because of me in whatever I'm doing? Whether that is, my friends, are they better off because of me? Is my wife better off because of me? Are my clients better off because of me? Are my staff better off because of me? And I think if I can answer the question, yes, then I've achieved some measure of success that is hopefully more lasting than, my turnover number, my business valuation, my, how much I exited for, or what my bank balance is. I don't think anyone's going to stand up at my funeral and say, Gareth had this much money.
It's a wonderful lesson. There's actually a book called Half Time. And it talks exactly about that, so how you move from success to significance, and the author talks about the first 40 years of success and then the next 40 years of significance. Carl's the spring chicken in the room, so he hasn't yet got to that point of wisdom to fully appreciate. I'm a few years on, so I'm going to make a bit of hay while the sun shines still. But Gareth, let's just talk a little bit about Ironman, and then we're going to go into a bit of your business journey. But as an endurance athlete doing Ironman, what did that teach you about how you kind of built and led Cloudworks as an accounting practice? Are there any things that you took out of that sort of competitive athletic endurance space into building a business?
I think one of the phrases that a coach used early on, he said, Ironman is not about who goes the fastest. It's about who slows down the least. And there's the idea that if you do a slow run, you're running at 7 minutes a K. If you do a fast walk, you're walking at 11 or 12. And you need to be able, whatever you do, you need to be able to sustain it. So there's no point working 18-hour days for 2 months and then cracking. There's no point, aiming for 10x growth and not being able to sustain it because your structure can't hold. Having a good race doesn't happen on race day. Having a good race happens on all the other mornings that you've got up consistently. And it doesn't mean ticking every box. It doesn't mean doing every single training session. It means doing most of them consistently. And I think that's something that I've tried to do in business is I need to be steady. I need to be consistent. I need to do the right things more often than not, and success will follow. Rather than burning out. You see so many sports people and particularly in sort of the age group amateur area, they end up overtrained. And you see so many business owners who talk about burnout. I know one guy, I think he's on his 3rd burnout. That's not a badge of honor. So I think this idea of consistency is key, and to make sure that in order to continue enjoying it, nobody enjoys it when you're burnt out. And maybe it's not a triathlon example, but I speak to a lot of business owners and I hear them talking about how hard it is and how, business is hard. Owner must get paid last. Focusing on the negative things. So it's much more fun when you focus on the positive. And there was one guy who I walked into his house one day and he had a picture of himself. He was training for Kona Ironman World Champs, and he had a picture of himself on his bike, and underneath it said, "I get to do this." He didn't have to train, he got to train. And sometimes people, I have to go to work, I have to run my business, I have to deal with my clients, but I get to go to work, I get to run a business. I have to deal with stuff, I get to deal with stuff. And I think it's changing that framing that highlights how lucky I am to do this, how what a privilege it is to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think often, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And especially when you frame that in the mindset of an athlete, for instance, I think you're quite right. The hard work is really what goes on in the training. The best way that I can think of putting it is everybody wants to see the guys on the Olympic final, 4x100 free or something, or medley relay. But that's really the polished, that's like the movie. But what you haven't seen is the 3 or 4 years that it's taken to develop that movie in the back end, and the long nights, the early mornings, swimming in rain, in hail, and business is kind of like that. It's oftentimes doing the stuff that's fairly boring and not very shiny that sets you up for the best success.
No. And I think it's, what people see is my nice bike. What people see is the holidays. What people see is all the cool stuff. What they don't see is the Saturday nights and the crawling into bed at 12 o'clock. Unfortunately, I'm not doing that now, but I did do that in building a business. They don't see the stress. I've got 25 people. If I get it wrong, 25 people go home and don't feed their families. And that,
I mean, let's dive in there.
50 or 60 people, and people don't see that. They see the nice stuff.
Yeah, let's dive in there, Gareth. Sorry, I was speaking over you, but let's go back to sort of 2011, 2012. You're fresh out of articles, and and recently qualified CPA, chartered accountant. Talk us about why you started Cloudworks. What was the origin story behind that?
So it was always something I was going to do. I always wanted to run my own business, and the plan was I'd finish articles, I'd get a job, and about 35, I'd quit that and go into my own business. That was because you need experience to do these things. And 2012, for the if you remember, it was not a great time in the auditing profession, because that's when the New Companies Act came into place, or came into play, and not everybody needed an audit anymore. So we had an idea that there'd be, I was at a medium-sized firm. We had an idea that there'd be 2 out of the 3 of us who were finishing would stay, and the one girl was a shoo-in for it. And it was between me and another guy for the second place. And then they dropped a bit of a bomb on us and said, actually, we're only keeping one. And it went to Christy, who I'm actually still friends with today, even though she got the job after me. And to be honest, if I was in their position, I would have hired her over me for that job. In fact, she's still in auditing, and she's much better at it than I was. And so there I was, trying to find a job in the middle of a recession, in an industry that was a little bit up in the air, and this one always grates me, but I do understand it as a business owner now. People were saying things like, we want someone with 3 to 5 years post-articles experience. But they wanted me to have experience on my experience. They didn't count my experience as experience, which was fairly annoying. Or what they would do is they'd say, if we want someone straight out of articles, but who hasn't passed the board exam, because that little piece of paper that I had meant you had to pay me an extra 10 to 15,000 rand a month. But you could get somebody for a whole lot cheaper with the same experience, without that piece of paper. So, but at the same time, I had a couple of opportunities with people where people had said, can you do my accounting for me? And I said, sure, thinking, well, I'll do it as a side gig when I get a job. And then one day I thought to myself, you know what? This is what I really want to do. So why didn't I just make a run for it? And there was a day that I decided I'm not looking for a job anymore. This is now my job. And that was March 2012. So what, we are now 13 and a half years later. I still, you talk about imposter syndrome. I still sometimes think I haven't had a successful job interview. Other people change jobs and they have a successful job interview and everyone goes, well done. I've never had a successful job interview. But then in more clear moments, I go, well, I've signed up how many clients in the last 13 years? Those are little job interviews. So that was the story. It started with just me. Then I hired a person. Then I hired another person, and now there's 20-ish. And yeah, it's been the most fun I've had in my entire life. And if I had the moment again, I'd absolutely do it again.
If you just kind of take a step back to 2012, like what did that feel like? What was the sort of emotional roller coaster? What are some of the challenges that you've had to deal with? What's your process for overcoming those in general?
Sure. The day I decided, when I decided I wasn't looking for a job, I didn't sleep that night. The first time I hired somebody, I didn't sleep. In fact, the first 2 or 3 times I hired somebody, I didn't sleep. The first time I rented an office, I didn't sleep. The first time somebody came to me and said, hey, we really like what you're doing. We want you to do it for us, so we'll buy your business and build you into our bigger firm. I didn't sleep for 3 nights until I decided I was going to say no. And then I slept like a baby. What I think it is having a view of something bigger than me and being a part of something bigger than me, having friends, family, community, church, all the things that are outside of business, because when that gets tough, where do you go? And I mean, maybe we'll get onto it, but last year was a bit wild for a whole bunch of reasons. And what got me through that difficult time was the people in my life. The people who showed their true colors and were friends when I needed a friend. And I think owning a business is lonely. Being at the top is lonely. And the only people who truly understand it are people who are there. And
I think that's like what you're saying with that, I think is so true. I mean, I think often people, I mean, I can say for myself, 100% this was true. I thought I could walk to the top of the mountain and, everybody would be kind of there with me and looking around, and it would be a wonderful view. And often you get to the top and then you look around, it's cloudy, it's foggy, you can barely see anything, and you realize you're the only one up there and you've isolated yourself from all your friends. And I don't think many people understand that. You got to really be careful. You got to be really careful that you're going after what you want.
Yeah, it is.
And I think as well, I mean, what you were saying there, Gareth, I mean, one of our partners, and I guess a good friend of ours, Ryan Tanzam, talks about this, is it's not just about business. The reason we work and sacrifice is to do the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people. So you're not doing it just to put an extra zero on the end of your bank account. You're doing it to make an impact. And I guess those are the things that keeps you going when the time gets tough, both in terms of your motivation to help other people, but also in terms of that support that you need when things aren't always going as well as they might be. So it's that sort of counterbalance. I think you just encapsulate that so well. In today's age, the sort of like unicorn entrepreneurs are the ones that are celebrated and put up in shining lights and that. But actually, let's call it the heartland of entrepreneurship is what you describe. Most people doing it either out of necessity or just wanting to make a difference.
But the obsession with the unicorn or the Musks and all these people is to get to that level, there's almost got to be something wrong with you. I can't celebrate someone who has 4 wives and 20 different children. And I just don't think that person has succeeded at life. There might be a big balance, it's not a Musk only thing. There's hundreds of them, or most of these super wealthy billionaires, there's something there that they've done to get that much money. And is the success in the bank balance, or is the success in the life? I don't want someone to write a book about me like Steve Jobs' daughter wrote about him. That can't be a win. That can't be a win.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've
changed the world for the world, but you've made a worse world for your world.
Yeah, I think that comes down to what we kind of kicked off with is how do you
find success
yourself? And then I think, piggybacking on what we were just talking about is you've got to realize that whatever you're going after, there may be some serious sacrifices that you haven't foreseen along the way. So you've got to be really, really sure that you want what you're going after.
Yeah. So let's move on a bit from there. I mean, I think so we've got a good understanding of what does success mean. It's not just win at all costs. It's not about the biggest bank balance and all of that. It's about living a life of purpose and having time to enjoy it. Okay. So perhaps that's why, Gareth, you built a practice that can kind of, we say, run without you. So I want to move on a little bit to that. One of the things we always talk about with our clients is, build a business that gives you the option to sell. Value comes from having the option to sell, not because you have to or you're tired of your business. And selling shouldn't be the goal. It's a good outcome of building a good business that runs without the owner. You've done that. You've done that with Cloudworks. Can you maybe talk us through, some of the systems that allows you to have the business run without you? Whether it's playing a round of golf or whether it's, planning
five weeks in the US,
an Xterra or whatever, 5 weeks in the US. Talk about that.
So it isn't something that happened by accident. It was something. So shortly after COVID, I hired a business coach, and that was an unpleasant experience. And I've told her this because I like to be in charge, and I don't like being told anything. That's almost kind of the nature of people who start and run businesses. And she wasn't afraid to tell me things. And she wasn't afraid to fight with me and to disagree with me. And it wasn't a pleasant experience, but it was a valuable one. And I think that is often the case. And a large part of that discussion was about systematizing things. And the phrase that came out of that was systems run businesses, people run systems. And and looking at it going, how does somebody else make this decision? If the information to make the decision is in my head, then the only person that can do it is me. And starting this process of finding a way of getting the information that I had in my head into the hands of other people so that they could make the decision. Often the decision is what you should do is fairly obvious, but they don't have the information for it. So I went about and I made videos of how to do everything I do. Everything in my business, there is a video on how to do this thing my way. So that if somebody comes and asks me a question, the first thing I say is, have you watched the video? And if they say no, then I say, go and watch the video. And if you still need help, watch it again. And if you still need help, then come to me. Okay. Every time somebody asked me to do something, I went, why can't you do this yourself? What is stopping you doing this? No, I don't have the right accesses on, I don't have permission to do that. Okay, let's get you permission to do that. One of the highlights, absolute highlights, was somebody sent me a set of financials to sign, and I looked at it and went, this is a new client from a prior year. Why are we doing this? This isn't our job. We're not getting paid for this. And I asked about it, and she said, they emailed and said the previous accountant wasn't doing it and they needed it done. Would we do it? We've quoted them, done the work. We just needed to sign it, and he's on debit order, so he'll pay for it. And the first I knew about that, it landed on my desk to sign. And what an absolute delight. What an absolute delight. So it really was a case of every little thing. If somebody's asking me to do it, why can't you do this yourself? Why can't you make this decision? No, I don't think I'm allowed to. Okay, well then let's discuss what you are allowed to do. What exactly are you responsible for? What do I expect? There are two tools that have absolutely been a game changer. Number one is carbon practice intelligence. Okay, that I can pull out a graph every day and see that we have 80 VATs to do this month, but 40 of them are already done, and we're just waiting for the last day of the month so that we can load the payment for the client because they want to pay it in the last day of the month. The other 40 have been, 30 of them have been, we've told you about the number, we're just waiting for you to say yes. There's 10 that haven't been started. Okay, and then I can be calm because I can see how many things are potentially problems. I can see that everything is moving forward. So it was part of this process of using carbon well, which started, I asked people to do it, change the status, update the status. I need it like this, I need it like this, I need this template to be better. I need this updated. Never happened. Never happened. Until eventually, I came across the phrase, people do what is inspected, not what is expected. So I thought, great, I'm going to inspect it. And I went and said, hey, this template doesn't look right. It gives me two options. Do I do it this way or do it that way? And I just went through every single template and I asked the question. And eventually people got the hang of, well, he's going to ask, so I'd better get it right. If the job said it was in one status, then I would say, why is it still here? We should be further on with this. No, it is. I just haven't changed it. Well, then change it. And eventually people got the hang of the fact that I was going to ask. And if they didn't want me asking the question, they needed to answer it before I asked. So now
if I can interject you for a second there, Gareth, and I just want to make a really important point which you're making is, I think often people think owner dependence means you need a CRM system. You need to buy a piece of software as a service. And those are tools, absolutely. But I think what you're highlighting is actually systems and processes start with accountability.
Yeah.
And it starts with questions and it starts with empowerment. If you
Yeah.
don't do that, you can spend hundreds of
All the money in the
thousands
world.
on
All the money in the world.
systems and it doesn't move the dial at all.
Not at all.
And I think that's the big takeout that I'm getting from what you're discussing right now.
Yeah. So it was asking these questions and not only expecting people to do it, but inspecting it as well. And then it became habit. Okay. Then it became habit. So now I can log in and I can see exactly what is going on. I can see how many we've still got to do. I can look at the names and go, yeah, listen, we've been doing that guy for 8 years. We've never done it before the last 2 days of the month. That's fine. Okay. But I can see that this guy who really wants his thing by the 15th of the month, that's done. He's got it. Yes, we'll submit it at the end of the month, but he knows. And I can see that for every single thing that has to happen. I can see that, Graham, we've sent something to you and we've been waiting for you for 7 days. Okay. But now what I've been able to do is give those graphs to my management team. And what started as having a stand-up where I would say, right, this is what I'm seeing. This is what you need to do. It then changed to, you guys have the graphs. You come and tell me what you're seeing and what you're going to do. Okay. Being able to say things like, okay, but the most important thing, the most important status here is waiting for client, because there's your blocker. So are you dealing with what are you doing about the things that are in waiting for client? Because that's a guy you got a phone and say, hey, listen, I've sent you an email. I need an answer on it. And that makes everything move. So everything is getting done faster. Everything is getting done more efficiently. People have more capacity. People are less stressed. And I'm less stressed because I'm never wondering. Often what stresses us out as business owners is the unknown. I cannot know everything that 20 people are doing. But now I actually can. And I can know it from the other side of the world. I mean, I'm so far away from Cape Town that if I go any further, I'm going to start coming back. And well, I've been gone for nearly a month, no, 3.5 weeks. And I haven't been stressed once. The other tool, and this one is an absolute godsend. It's an app called Combinely, and they contacted me, well, probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember. It was a while ago. And they said, listen, we're thinking of building this app for accountants. Would you use it? Would you give us feedback? And I love doing things like that because I'd rather it have my feedback than it comes out the way I want it than just getting something that somebody else has built. So I said, great, I'll do it. I'll play with this. And one of the things that it does, it runs an AI check through all of your emails. So I can tell at any point how long it takes us as a firm and every individual at an individual level to reply to an email. So I can tell you that 85% of our emails are replied to within 24 hours. Okay. And it runs AI on it. So it runs AI on it. So it's 85% of emails that require a response. It also, and this one is my favorite, it picks out concerns. Okay. So if you send an email to any one of my team voicing a concern, I get an email immediately saying, hey, Graham sent a concern. And that might be, hey, I'm not sure my VAT number is right. Can you check it? Or, hey, I think we've put this in the wrong place. Can you help about it? I've even had people emailing their own staff moaning about things and copying us in, and those come through as concerns as well. So I can see any concern, whether it is as minor as, oh, I really don't like my VAT number. And the answer is, well, it's right, so that it is what it is. Or you've done an absolutely awful job, we want to fire you. I can see everything. So I'm here not wondering what's going to happen when I get home, or what is somebody not told me that I'm going to walk in and somebody's going to say, Gareth, I've got something to tell you. Okay. Because I've got that thing that is popping up every little concern. I can see it. And those two things have made removing owner dependence easy. Or easier, because it's not, you can have the tool, but you still got to have the mindset. of I'm going to hand this off to somebody else. And I think one of the things that, so I use the phrase a lot, what happens if something happens to me? Does this get done? And I've said to my staff, if I build a business that is owner dependent and that cannot run without me, what happens to you if something happens to me? Because here's the thing, if I fall off my bike on the 27th of the month, you don't get paid. Because I was the only person that could pay salaries. And if I end up in hospital, you don't get paid. Now what? So now somebody else does the salaries. So that if he falls off his bike, I can do it. We just got to both not fall off our bike together. Okay.
We're getting the same airplane or whatever to go.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean that sort of stuff is absolutely critical. You know, just digging into that a little bit. You know, I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate the whole idea behind marginal gains. I know, so Dave Brailsford made that quite
Yes.
quite popular with Team Sky. So
yeah, I mean, and they've suffered since he's left, and he did not bring marginal gains to Manchester United, did he?
yeah, exactly. But I guess where I'm going with this is also going back to that whole idea of people see you when you're at the finish line. So you hire someone now, they see all these processes, they like them, and they think the business has run like this the entire time that it's been in existence. So just to kind of like manage expectations for people, how long does it take to really develop systems like this, and how many times do you actually have to fail, and some of the painful lessons that you might have had to learn in order to inform how to build these sort of systems or implement these sort of you know, AI-based systems that can at least give you greater visibility? Because I think that's the thing that's sticking out to me is, for a leader, you need visibility, and you need to just say yes or no to decisions and have a backup plan and someone in place that can effectively take over if something was to happen to you.
You know what? It's not hard. Like there's nothing that I've done that is particularly genius. It's apps that are available and that are actually really easy to use. I think it's more about the attitude. Most business owners are control freaks. So they want to keep it all to themselves. Most people want to keep it to themselves because that's what gives them value. If I can't, you know, I must be indispensable. Most business owners don't want other people to know things. So they keep it all to themselves. But when you keep it all to yourself, what you end up doing is working in the business, not on the business. Or this idea that nobody's going to do it as well as I am. Well, of course they're not going to do it as well as I am, but I don't need them to. I need them to do it well enough and fast enough. I will do it faster. But, you know, I've got 16 years experience. Somebody who's got 3 years experience is not going to do it as fast as me. But I must be okay with that. I must provide them the support so that they can do it as well and as fast as me. So it's really more the attitude change that is the hardest. And somebody asked me, when were you ready to hand over control of the bank account? And I was like, oh, I wasn't. I absolutely wasn't. But I did it anyway. I did it anyway. And I think I haven't actually been ready for any of this. I've done it anyway. And then I've gone, well, this is marvelous. I can't believe I didn't do it earlier. Let's carry on. But it is a step of, I'm going to remove myself from this. I mean, I say things around the office like, you know, it might look like I don't do any work, but I actually do a lot of work, because in a day, if I don't do accounting. In fact, if you ask me the question, what do you do? I say, I run an accounting business. I don't say I'm an accountant, because I'm not an accountant. I'm almost an air traffic controller. But I think to answer the question, it's an attitude, because the tools are there and the tools do it for you. It is an attitude of, we're going to do this and I'm going to do it. Because if I expect people to have a triage with nothing older than 2 days in, they can see my stats too. Right? And if I'm saying, hey, you need to clean it up, and they go, but yeah, you need to clean yours up, that doesn't work. So I can walk out there and go, yours is rubbish, look at mine. If I can have
I mean,
mine,
Gareth, I can
you
see
can have
we're going to
yours.
have to have another podcast episode with you, because there's just so much to unpack here. But I think in terms of today, and I guess you didn't put a timeline to that, but as you say, it's an attitude. It's not instant that your business runs without you.
No,
It takes, I guess, years before you get to that point. And you look in the rearview mirror, and those 13 years probably feel like 13 months sometimes. You've
cannot
done
believe
the
it's been 13
Ironman,
years.
and then it's not so hard after you've done it. I mean, you maybe have a few sore muscles the next day or two or three, but you look back and you think, oh, was it that bad, right?
And then you end up doing it again. That's how you do it again. You forget. But I think the key takeaway here, and I mean, I can certainly say for myself, I've noticed this, but as an athlete and life in general, the most scary point is the what if leading into the decision. Like if you just shorten that timeline and just make the decision, be decisive, maybe you get it right, maybe you get it wrong. If you get it wrong, it's like that famous Benjamin Franklin saying, you figured out one extra way how not to do it. But oftentimes you'll find that actually just doing the thing is not as bad as you made out. Beforehand, you're thinking of the infinite possibilities of what could go wrong. And that can keep anyone up.
So I like to use the phrase consequence of failure. There are a million things that can go wrong, but what is the consequence of that failure? So I'm going to start this process, and if it doesn't work, what happens? Well, I'm in exactly the same place. So why not try it?
Probability multiplied by risk.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Gareth, I want to dive in. I mean, maybe a couple more questions, and as I say, there's 1,000 things we could chat to you about. You touched on it right at the beginning of the podcast, and we've spoken about the success of building a practice that runs itself and all of that, but things don't always go according to plan. And I know last year in particular was a difficult year for you. You had another venture, and it didn't go according to plan. So would you just share a little bit about that? Because I think it's also good to just kind of shine a light on, failure is the wrong word, but when things happen that are perhaps out of your control, what can happen?
Yeah, this one, it's been a year. It's nearly a year since the first sort of seeds of unraveling happened, but I ran a business that provided funding or crowdsourced funding to SMEs. And about this time last year, we discovered that our biggest borrower was running a massive fraud campaign. And they'd faked an entire business, from fake purchase orders to fake bank statements to fake accounting bank based on the bank statements to make everything look real. I'm actually almost impressed, because it was a full-time job keeping this thing up and running. And that resulted in a lot of people losing a lot of money. It resulted in me losing a lot of money. It resulted in me retrenching some people, including somebody who I've known for 20 years. But more than anything, and I mean, I can say this now because I've been able to do a bit of processing. When you run a business, and when you run multiple businesses, and when you have visible success, you start to identify with that. And you get used to people thinking you're cool and clever. And then you fail spectacularly and publicly. And you've got to walk into your office knowing that everybody there is now doubting you. And you've got to go to bed at night and wake up at night with this hanging over you. And I don't think I left my house for 2 months.
Sure.
My best friend, who lives across the road, who is quite, if I'm out, he might let himself in for a swim. He didn't come over to my house for 6 weeks. Not through any fault of his own, through mine, because I didn't want to talk to anybody. I mean, and he works for me. I was taking rescue remedies just to walk into the office in the morning. I was packing them in my lunch bag. That was not fun. That was not fun. And it was embarrassing. and it made me doubt worth, because what I'm supposed to be doing, what is the definition of success, is people are better off because of me. And there are people who are definitely not better off because of me at this point. So yeah, that was not fun. That was not fun. And there were two things. There were two conversations that dragged me out of it. One was a business owning friend who's 10, 12 years older than me and has a lot more money than me, and who's been through 2 near bankruptcies and on the journey and has made it out. And he said, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Number 1, if this goes badly, will you still be married? Will you still live in the same house? And will you still eat the same food? And I said, yes, yes, and yes. He said, well, what you've lost is a little bit of money and a little bit of pride. But that's fixable. That's fixable.
Sure. I think that's also
Um,
attaching worth to success
the right
of a business. So, and failure just reframes your ego and actually gets a little bit of wisdom
it hurts.
into you. It hurts for a while, but if you can, I think wisdom is being able to separate emotions and an event.
Yeah.
So really being able to look at it and say, okay, this happened. Sure, now I can talk about it. It's okay.
I can talk about it now. I can talk about it now. The other thing was a friend dragged me out for went to the range market in Cape Town, and the 4 of us sat there and we were chatting about this because they could see that I wasn't my normal self. And at some point my wife turned around and went, yeah, but the marriage vows said for better or worse, richer or poorer. And I looked at her, I said, yes, but that meant my better and your worse, and my richer and your poorer. It didn't mean it the other way around. And everyone just looked at me and went, that is not how it works. That is not how it works. So sort of having to come to terms with, for once, not being the superhero, for once not being the guy who had it all under control, for once not being the guy that was helping everybody else out. Yes, it was a massive kick to the ego. And that was it was less fun than, I mean, I hope I'm not making it sound fun, but it was less fun than I'm making it sound. Now,
look, I mean,
a year on, I can say it is the best thing that ever happened to me. It is the best thing that ever happened to me because I have a better quality of life. I have better perspective. I make better decisions. I make more money. I spend less time working. I am less stressed. I am fitter. I have lost weight. I did not and could not see it at the time, but now it has been the best thing that happened to me. It made a decision for me that I was too scared to make myself.
Wow, I mean, it's, firstly, I think it takes a lot of vulnerability to share a story like that. I know you things are better now, but still, you have to face some demons to go through that,
Oh,
and
and
you
all
have
this
to
happened.
face some, yeah.
All this happened. I mean, the official last day was 2 days before my 40th birthday. So that was fun.
Yeah, I think often.
So that's a good party on your 40th birthday.
I'm very proud the police got called. We had a live band and the police got called and it was for a noise complaint.
And we'll leave it at that. But Gareth, I mean, there's so much more we want to get into it. It almost feels like, we want to sort of unpack the whole journey into your current US acquisition. All of it almost seems kind of misplaced to go there now. So what, I'd like to suggest is that we have you back for a second discussion, and maybe just briefly, you're now sitting in Seattle. You just acquired another firm. Maybe you can just give a bit of a teaser, and we will have you back, as to why, after having been through all this, you've built a great business, why acquire another business at the furthest place away from your home as you can? Are you slightly mad, or,
Um,
like, tell us a little bit about that, and then we can make a wrap.
So, I mean, listen, I've had my feet under the table here for a whole 17 days, so maybe next time is better when I have more to tell.
Yeah.
But I am going to defend myself slightly and say this idea was not mine, it was my brother's. It was my brother's, who is an absolute lunatic, in all the best possible ways. He thinks about things that other people do not think, and then he sort of has this ability to almost bend things to his will. No, 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 or you can't is it's just not a phrase that exists in his world. You know, and whether that is no, you can't eat my last piece of the Twix chocolate that is sitting on my desk, or no, you can't buy a business in America. It's just that is an unacceptable response, so he does it. So he said he'd been thinking about this, and he said, you know, I think I'm going to do it. And you have three options. One, you cannot get involved at all. Two, I can send work down to Cloudworks. Three, you can do it with me. Your choice. And I thought, well, you know what? This sounds like fun. Could we have done it in our early 20s? Probably not. We would have killed each other. But now that we are substantially older, a little bit wiser, we can do it together. And it's an opportunity to work with my brother, which is so far has been great fun. It's an opportunity to earn some dollars, learn some new things, gain experience in a new market, and do something cool, because in a weird way, I don't want to say I'm bored with Cloudworks, because I still love it. I still love it, but I'm bored at it a lot of the time, because I walk in and I say, does anyone need me? And everyone just looks at me and goes, no. So it has been great fun building something and going, okay, well, I can set this up, I can do this, I can learn about this, and I can get into something that is new. Whereas, you know, sometimes at Cloudworks, I walk around the office and I annoy people, and I'm, you know, they need to send me back to my box, because like, you're actually just distracting us now.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully next time I will have some stories.
And I think we're going to have to get your brother to join us on the next one as well. Is he a younger brother or older brother?
Here's a well, I'll let you look at us and then decide. He is younger than me. He is younger than me. I think he would make a very interesting podcast guest. I think if you put the two of us on together, you would never get a word in. But I'd highly recommend talking to him, because he does interesting individual in that there is nothing that is not possible. And I think I need people like him, but he needs people like me. And I think that's why we work well together. So I would highly recommend talking to him. He could be very interesting to listen to.
I think we've got our next podcast lined up, but we are out of time. And Gareth, you know, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. I think, you know, there's just a wealth of insight and knowledge and vulnerability, and, you know, and takeouts from the story you've shared with us. How can our listeners get hold of you if they want to connect afterwards, whether they want to become a client, or whether they just want to, if they're looking for a mentor even, or they're looking for a trading partner?
I would love to do that. That would make me so happy to do that. Best thing to do, email me, gareth@cloudworkssa.com. You know, you might at the moment get my out of office telling you that I'm in a strange time zone, and I'll reply eventually, which I will do. But yeah, that's my contact details, or my email. Drop me an email and I'm more than happy to chat, whether it's about being a client or whether it's about having someone to walk this journey with. Because, you know what, if I can help somebody not cry some tears that I've cried, that'll be somebody who's better off because of me, and that's success. Love to do that.
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, guys, I think that's a good place to wrap. So for anyone listening, if you got value, hit subscribe, leave a review, and yeah, come speak to us and speak to Gareth.
Fantastic,
Cool,
guys. Gareth, we'll be back.
Can't wait.
Stealing a line from the Terminator.
There we go.
Goodbye, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Sure.
Thank you.